story, you can do it in about 3 different ways. It's either a comedy or a drama or a tragedy, but I'll give you one of each. Comedy is usually where somebody screws up and everybody gets to laugh at it. Like my solo flight in the B-17 in Roswell, New Mexico, October 1943. The procedure was to take two student pilots who had never flown 17 alone and put them in the cockpit and let them fight who was going to go first. And you'd take off land and change seats then. So I started off in the pilot's seat, took off, right-hand pattern. Now Roswell had two parallel runways, 27 left, 27 right. And we took off on 27 left, and because 27 right was under construction. Well, on the right-hand pattern, the first runway you see is 27 right. And of course, I was in a hurry to land. So I lined up and got down about 200 feet. And I looked out there and I saw a roller, like a steam roller going down the runway. And the tower about that time politely suggested I pull up, go around. And in the meantime, the roller operator looked back and saw me coming, and he jumped off the roller and just let it go. And I don't know that it ever stopped, but anyway. Several years later, I got a chance to pay my dues for that one, and I was in the Beverly Hilton in Hollywood, and they were paving the street out in front, and I came back about midnight, and here's the roller right in front of the door. And I thought he was waiting for me. But I went in and I got a big, went to the coffee shop and got a great big hamburger and about a gallon of Coke, and took it out to him and said, I owed you one. Well, he never did know where his generosity came from. Drama in the cockpit. I suppose a few of you have heard of that. But we had a target that was kind of nasty. And my co-pilot and I had a rule. I would take off and land and fly the bomb run, and he would spell me off every 20 minutes when we were flying formation. So on this particular run, I know he hated to look at flak. So when we were on the bomb run, he would hunker down in his seat, pull his flak helmet down over his eyes, and just watch the instruments in front of him, pretending he was the engineer. So about that time, we took a heavy hit right in the nose. And the first thing I saw was about a foot shard of steel hanging out of the astrodome, swinging back and forth. It made the navigator kind of nervous. But at the same time, there was a lot of glass flying in the cockpit. And the next thing I knew, all four engines stopped. The propeller stopped turning. And you should have seen the reaction of that co-pilot. All those dials went flop right back to zero. And he came up like this, his hat flew back in the bomb bag, and he's looking at what's wrong. And just then they all started turning again. And all engines came on full power. I hardly lost my place in the bomb run. But what had happened is the flak had hit the magneto switches, cut all the wires, and they proceeded to rewire themselves or solder back on the frame. And I'd say that's lucky or miraculous, I don't know which. In the area of the tragedy, that was October 6th, 1944, and I only had one, what I call serious day in flying combat. It was about the 17th out of the 35 missions, and we were scheduled for Berlin, and we got out all the way to the IP without any problem. And I was flying element lead at the third box off to the left, fortunately. And just as we hit the IP, the flak hit us and really hit my left wingman, right on the left side of his, near the wing rut. And there was a big explosion on his aircraft, which threw him up and upside down, and he's coming down flat right on top of me. So fortunately I was able to skid down to the left and get out of his way, so he cleared. that plane went on down in a spin, and there were 8 chutes came out, but I saw by the record only the pilot survived. So meantime, we get back on the run, and as we turned off the run, we got our own douse of whack, and we lost number 1 engine. And number 3 got hit in the turbocharger, and you know how good they are, 30,000 feet with a hole in them. So we were running on 2 1/4 engines. And the loneliest feeling I think I've ever had was when my squadron pulled away, and the 8th Air Force pulled away, and I'm out there all by myself, the whole sky. So I punched the fighter button and called for the Blue Angels, which was the code for the day. And I don't think it was 30 seconds. I had 4 51s on my wing, which took me all the way to the channel. And we were only 5 minutes from the channel once we got across to the base at I. And so I called for a straight-in approach. But I made the mistake of saying I only got 1 wheel and a couple engines, no flaps, no tail wheel, no hydraulic. And the colonel came on and he says, "You get that pile of junk out of here. I don't want it screwing up my runways." And again, there I am out there by myself. Nobody cared. By this time I'm down about 200 feet, and we weren't exactly gaining altitude with all that lack of power. But we went down to Woodbridge, which was 20 minutes, got there on time, before we hit the ground, that is. And so we made we had everything in our favor. A right crosswind, on the same side as the wheel was good. And I had an engine out on the left side, which let me hold the wing up. And I could slide slip into the wind, and that couldn't have been better. Made the best landing I ever had on 1 wheel, or 2. Now that's luck, I want it. But I told the crew, I said, now, as soon as this thing slows down, I want you to get out because it might blow. And so, as we come around, you know how you lose that wheel and it comes around 180 degrees, and it rides around on the wingtip. And as it came around, and we must have been doing about 20 miles an hour by that time. And here goes the tail gunner running up ahead of me. And that was another rather miraculous flight. I did lose my favorite cadet friend from Minneapolis that same day. I flew right over his spot where he was ditching in the channel, and he didn't make it. The whole crew got drowned. So I always call that my tragedy of the Air Force, because I didn't lose anybody else after that one. Thanks.
And you'll have a videotape of that so you can review and remember what you told us when we ask you to come up the next time.
They wanted to charge me for that airplane, but I reneged.
What was the statement of charges of that? $250,000?
Oh no, what's that one? Well, Wally, about 127,000.
127,000?
And 30 cents.